Hi, Clint Coons here with Anderson Business Advisors, and this is going to be a little different video. When I considered putting this together, some of the thoughts that came to mind was, I really want to get everyone out there to understand the importance of asset protection. If you've watched my other videos on my channel, I talk about it a lot when it comes to owning real estate, and sometimes I don't know if people truly appreciate the threats. And as we know right now, our country is going through a trying time, that we have this invisible disease out there, this enemy that is attacking us, and it's doing a tremendous amount of damage throughout the country, and we're doing our best to fight it off. And I know we're going to come through it together the way we always do in the United States, that we do persevere in times like this, and we will beat it. But unfortunately, in my opinion, that this type of situation, others going to see it as an opportunity to profit from someone's misery or from someone's misgivings or something that's gone on. And what I really wanted to get across in this video here is some of the concerns that I have that I want to share with you when it comes to asset protection, and why with COVID-19 that I think it's more important now than ever to make sure that your asset protection plan is buttoned down, especially if you hold rental real estate. Because attorneys are crafty. They're going to see this as an opportunity to generate fees for their clients. And they're going to go out there and they're going to start lawsuits. In fact, it's already started. We have individuals that have got a class action lawsuit now going against cruise lines. We have another attorney that started a class action lawsuit against China. So it doesn't take a huge imagination to figure out if they can do that, and they're willing to go that far, they're willing to go after the small real estate investor who may not appreciate the risks that are out there when it comes to owning real estate with this type of invisible enemy that can come and attack. Because you've seen the transmission rates, you can appreciate that. If you watch the news, they talk about it all the time, how virulent it is. And so as a real estate investor, it gives me a lot of pause, and it makes me want to come back and reevaluate my personal situation, how my assets are being held, and I would encourage you to do the same thing. And unless the government steps in, and if you can, I would encourage you to call your legislature and tell your congressman or your senator, say, listen, you guys need to pass laws to prevent attorneys from profiting off of individuals that have done nothing to spread this disease. Or if they did, it wasn't intentional. That they should not be held accountable because there's a subset of our population that takes these types of situations and tries to capitalize on them and take what was miserable and make it even worse for hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals just as a result of their greed. So here's something that I would consider if I were you when it comes to protecting your assets, okay? So when we look at COVID, where are some of the lawsuits that I see coming down the line that people could assert or attorneys will assert against you? Number one, let's say that you have a property and your tenant, right, needs some additional work done. They say, hey, something's not working in my property right now. I want you to send someone out to fix it. So you send someone out to fix it, and they go in there and they actually are positive. They have corona. They don't know it yet because they're not showing any symptoms. So they spread it to that individual. Your tenant happens to be in a risk category, and they contract it and they pass on. I wouldn't put it past an attorney to bring what is called a wrongful death action, okay? Death action against you. They'll trace it back. They'll say that the property manager at the time, if they can show that when the property manager went out there or the contractor went out onto that property, they themselves were symptomatic or they didn't know it, but they should have known it, and therefore they pass that virus on to the individual. Now, what's frustrating here with this is that you have no way to prove that, right? How do you know that individual didn't go out to a park, right, and walk through the park and grab onto some bars and lick their hands? I don't know. But it doesn't matter. It's not about having to prove it. All they're going to do is allege and then assassinate your character from that point on. So this is a concern that I have. So you want to make sure that your properties are protected against that. So this would be a single family. Another concern that I would have is, let's assume that they're going to sue you under a warranty of habitability claim. People are laid off. They're not working. So what do? They're sitting at home. Things that ordinarily wouldn't bother them, now that's starting to bother them. Let's say, oh, that plumbing's been leaking now and no one's done anything about it. I'm going to call my property, the landlord, have him send someone out. But the landlord doesn't want to go out there because for the same concern that you have for your tenants, that your manager might pass something on, a contractor might pass something on to them, they don't want to be in that situation because they don't want to pick something up from that property. So then that issue goes unremedied. Maybe it was a leak. a small leak, and then it turns into toxic mold. So boom, now they come after you and they sue you for warranty of habitability, failure to remedy the situation in the property, and you're just trying to use best practices to protect your people, the people that you work with, your employees, from potentially contracting it. And so it's this double-edged sword. You go out there and you pass it on, you're damned. You go out there and you don't pass, if you don't go out there, then they can sue you for that. Or maybe you send someone out there, I mean, here's another one. You send someone out there to fix it, they work for you, they contract it, now they sue you because you put them in harm's way. So this can just spin out of control. If you have a multifamily property, another thing I would say is a sick building, all right? You can get sued for this. What would they come after you for? They would say all the common areas. You did a very poor job of ensuring that these common areas were virus-free. Well, come on, I mean, what do you got to do? Spray it down every 10 minutes? That's going to be very hard to do if you have a multifamily property. And so people could contract it. Now, if they do contract it, they don't know where they contracted it from. One thing you might say, if there's several people in the building that have it, well, it's got to be the building. It has nothing to do with the fact that we're all hanging out together on Friday night drinking beers and watching a movie. No, it's the building that created the problem. And you were put on notice that you should have taken extra measures to protect us from the spread. So now they sue you on a sick building. So that's why you want to make sure that your assets are protected, that all your real estate is put in LLCs and you minimize your overall risk exposure. The last point I want to share with you is something that I saw in 2008 that happened with a lot of real estate investors, unfortunately. So depending on what you think about what's going to happen here in the next several months with the economy, with mortgages, if tenants aren't paying their rents, what's going to happen? That's going to be a trickle down effect to the landlords who then can no longer pay, the real estate owners can no longer pay their mortgages. Not paying your mortgages, banks, you know, banks do what banks do, right? They foreclose. So they foreclose, and it happens to be now because less people are buying, property values have deflated, they've gone down. The bank forecloses and they find that they can obtain a deficiency judgment against you because you signed a personal guarantee. So you got to be thinking about this. If you've signed a personal guarantee, you're liable on all of those mortgages. And if you have to walk away from a property, let's say because you don't have any tenants that are paying, you can't get enough rent to cover your mortgage, you're like, it's just not worth it, and you can't sell it, then you want to make sure you're protected from that personal guarantee. So I would call this a mortgage default is what we're looking at with a judgment. So in this particular situation, I think you have a lot of risk. We had a lot of individuals that we'd worked with between 2002 and 2008 that when the market turned on them, they got caught because they were not following our advice to put the assets in the appropriate entities. So here's what you should be doing. Reevaluate where you are with your savings, with your brokerage account, with your entities. Best thing I could tell you to do is look at creating a Wyoming limited liability company right here. You should have a Wyoming LLC set up. In here should be your savings account. You should also have inside of there your brokerage account. If you have a brokerage account that still has some value in it, it's in your personal name, not inside of a retirement account. You're there, that's fine. Get that moved over into your brokerage account. So some tune-ups that you should be focusing on right now. That you just have enough in your checking account to cover your everyday bills, all right, and your mortgage and things like that. But all your savings needs to be moved out. Don't carry a huge balance in your checking account. Get that moved out, put it into an LLC, a safe bucket. Any type of real estate that you own, make sure that's in a limited liability company. Here are the mistakes that I've seen people make. They've taken properties out to refinance it because rates have gone down. Have you put that property back into that LLC? Check on that. If you haven't, make sure you get it in right away. If you currently have property that's in your own name, set up an LLC, get it protected. This is just, I would say, some common sense that you should be doing right now when you have the time. Reevaluate everything you have. If you want to get a strategy session set up with us, definitely do that on the show notes there. But I wanted to bring it to your attention because I do see this, unfortunately, as a potential second outbreak as a result of what's gone on here. Now, we can prevent it together. They're looking for a cure for COVID to come up with a shot that's going to make it go away to ensure that you build up the antibodies to it. Well, here's something. If you want to make sure there's a cure to this to prevent attorneys from profiting on it, contact your local congressman, contact your senators. Let them know that legislation needs to be enacted to prevent attorneys from going after you and profiting off of this horrible disease. My name is Clint Coons with Anderson Business Advisors, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you and your family remain healthy and stay that way. Thank you.